Hello guys, how are you? I hope everybody's fine. In fact, I was not willing or planning to do this video. I was in fact trying to read a microcontroller. It's a KB9022. This board is from a friend. He has already tried to read it and flash it, but without success. So I have already soldered. I am going to use the RT programmer 809H1, and with this board, any board can be used. We need a board on which we can solder some wires which have to be soldered on the desired pins on our keyboard connector of the board. Why keyboard connector? Because most of or all the pins that we are going that we need to link, the pins of the microcontroller that we need to link with our programmer in order to read it, are in fact linked with the corresponding pins on the keyboard connector. So we just need to know which pins of the microcontroller we need to use to flash it. To know that, in fact, we need either to look on the internet, for example looking for how to program KB9022, or simply we go to the software of the RT809 itself. Here we have the schema of the wirings. So here, as you can see here in this photo, in fact, which is within the this software. So let's type here KB9022, and so here we got two options, this one and this one. So this one, when we are going to use a special board like what we see here on the software. Let me show you this. So here it's a special board on which we can solder the microcontroller, but it's a hard job to do and it takes a long time, so we just opt for the JTAG solution, this one. And when we choose this one, we got this picture here which shows us the configuration that we need to use in wiring. So here as you can see, here are the pins on the microcontroller. So we need to use the pins 60, 61, 42, 62 and 59. Some technicians do solder directly on these pins on the microcontroller, but it's not advisable. In fact, to do that you may do a mistake and fry your microcontroller. What we need to do is to check these pins, for example to check pin 60 to which pin it's linked on the keyboard connector. Same thing for 61, same thing for 42, same thing for 62, same thing for 59. If we have a schematic, that's easy to check. If we don't have schematic or board view, then you have to use your meter and B-pin mode. A B-pin mode, meaning that you put your probe on for example on pin 60 of your microcontroller, on pin 60 for example, and you with the other probe you search for the corresponding one on the keyboard connector, and you write down your findings on a paper like I have done here, to make things easier. So I have done this already. The EC pins, which are 42, 60, 59, 61, 62, which we have seen on the schema on the software of the programmer, and I have found the corresponding pins on the keyboard connector. Here it's keyboard connector. The correspondings are 15, 27, 28, 30 and 31. Okay, I have said that it's a KB9022. Let's see how to read it. So, and I have said that we can use any board we can use it. The idea is to link the microcontroller with the programmer, as you can see here. So here it's the it's the programmer, and for example pin 60 should comes here, pin 61 should comes here, 42 should be linked to here, 62 should be linked to this point, etc. My friend hasn't managed to read it. In fact, I got a message, an error message, which I got myself, but I found the trick why it doesn't read successfully. So let me fetch the adapter or the tip of the HP of this one, and let's plug it on the connector, DC connector. Let's put this here, and this board should be connected like this. So these pins, the bottom ones, should be on the bottom on the programmer. We need to open this, it's closed. So let's connect. Fine, that's good. Before even starting to do things, we should be sure that these wires are not short together. But you don't check randomly on the board. You have to see the colors here, which are neighbors. The neighboring colors should be checked. For example, I have the red and yellow. They are neighbors, so no connection. I have also next to the red, I have the green, so the red and green, no connection. Next to green I have gray, so green and gray, no connection. And for the blue one, it's in fact far from the others, so it won't be shorted to any one of them. So that's the most important thing to check before applying power either to programmer and the board. Okay, let's power the power supply. I am just going to power it and put it on 19 volt, but I won't press on the on button yet, so I have to put it on 19 volt, and that's fine. So it's powered, but not yet letting power to the board, so I have to put on the on button before that. For the moment I have to plug the programmer, and let's come here. So let's close and open again. Yes. I have restarted the program, the software, to get this hair empty. I need it to be clear. Hair. I need hair to be clear. So this message is concerning an update. I don't need it right now. Okay, let's here write KB9022 and let's choose the second option here, double click. Okay, so before pressing read or clicking on read, we power the board first, then after 2-3 seconds we have to click on read. So I am powering now and let's click on read. As you can see, it starts reading, but there's an error. Read error, operation aborted, verification failure. So we have here start reading ship, read successful, elapsed time and seconds. The message here said that the read is successful. Here are the, let's make things clear. So here we have start reading ship, we have here read successful, elapsed time. As you can see here, I don't need to read all these things, but here it gives the time it takes when reading. Here auto verifying ship, verification error. So the verification, we got the verification error. In fact, if we try again, the programmer will give this error. Why? Because now the board or the microcontroller is busy, because the board is still powered. We have to, the board is still powered, as you can see here from the adapter here. Let me show you. So here we have light on this LED of the DC connector, sorry. So we need in fact to stop powering the board by clicking on off on my power supply. I am using Corad power supply. So let's move this to here so that it will be easy when I'm going to show you the LED or something else. Anyway, so now let's try again. So let's press on button on my power supply. So I am pressing now and read. As you can see, it starts reading. Same thing, same error. If we press read now, the board is still on. It says, it shows same message. Let's try again. And now the program setup error. So here we got this message, program setup error. Here boot error, please check whether the LC chip is supplied voltage and ISP cable is correctly or properly connected properly or not. The ISP cable should not exceed 10 centimeters in length. I have checked that the cables are not exceeding the 10 centimeters of length. The problem here is that the microcontroller is busy. We have to stop powering the board again. Let's put my my on read button. Now power, yes, and click on read. It starts reading again, but again we will get the same error. We do it again, we are going to receive the same error. Now third time, operation aborted, because now we have to power off again the board. That's fine. In between, you should know thing. The board is not powering, which means it's not on. It doesn't drop anything on my power supply except let's say 0.009 ohms. 0.009 ohms. So the board is not, it's not powered. It's on standby mode. We supply it to, in fact we are simply supplying the microcontroller. The microcontroller should be supplied with 3.3 volt if we want to read it. So let's power off the board. So the trick here is that we need to connect the ground of programmer with the ground of the motherboard. So using my let me show you, using my tweezer, I put it on the here, it's the VGA connector. I am putting it on this VGA connector here, it's ground, or here, or on this screw here. Anyway, it should be a ground. So I put it here, and let's connect it with the here, this RAM holder, which is also ground here. So it's the one pin of my tweezer on the RAM holder, and the other on the metal here of the surrounding the VGA connector. Let's try again. So here, let's put this on red. Let's power the board. Red. Bingo. Now it's reading perfectly. Let's save on desktop. This is let's create another folder. This is HP DKL50 LA E80 2P rev 1.0. Let's copy this. It will be the same name for our bin. Sorry, I have saved with the generated name by the programmer. Anyway, I will read again. Let's power off. I can read without powering off now. As you can see here, let's rename it let's power off now the board. It's not on. The power is not, the power supply is not on now. Let's make it on. Let's power it, yes, and let's read again. I'm still holding the tweezer on both connections, on the RAM holder and on this metal of the VGA of my programmer, to make connection between the ground of programmer and the board. So here let's number it 01. Yes, 01. Okay, enter. So let's go to our folder. Here it is. Let's power off the power supply. Okay, here we have our files. Let's choose first this one and this one, and let's open with the hex, and let's analyze if they are identical. Compare. Okay, yes, they are identical. Okay, let's compare the first with the third. What do we have here? Yes, the first with the third. Let's analyze. Okay, same thing. So we have managed to read this keyboard controller. Sometimes another trick is that sometimes we need, with some microcontrollers, we need to supply the programmer with 12 volt. As you all know, the owners of this programmer know that it can be supplied also with 12 volt. There's this connector here. So sometimes we got error when supplied only with the USB cable for getting supply from PC only. So we need to add 12 volt supply. Not always, but sometimes. Okay, even this trick of connecting the ground of the programmer with the ground of the board, in fact we don't need it with some microcontrollers, with just the wiring as shown in the schema here, and that's it. We can read it anyway. Here now you know it, and I hope it's clear and you have understood everything. I hope I haven't made any mistake in the terms I have used. If any mistake, please do mention it in the comments of the video so that I can correct myself in the future in other videos. So let's stop here. You know now how to read your, and same thing, you just let's write it. Now we have let's write it with the same dump which we saved. Let's open here, open, let's go to the folder, let's open this one for example, and let's we don't need this 12 volt because we have managed to read it without it. Now let's power, and let's read. Sorry, I should choose right, not read. And another thing, I have to connect the ground here. So let's power off again. Let's open the file here, this one. Let's power, and let's make my corrod or power supply on, and let's write. And pay attention to the grounding. If you don't want to do like me, like this, you can solder a wire, but in fact you don't need to solder a wire because it's just 128 kilobit file which will be done quickly. So you can do as I am doing, no problem. But for beginners, do please solder a wire, but pay attention to what you're doing and where to solder the wire. That's what's important. So here we have write successful, and we have auto verifying, verification successful. That's good. Let's read it again. Let's call it this time for test. Why for test? We are going to for here. I miss the O. For test, we are going to compare it with the first the first file, or the second, or the third. It doesn't matter, as they are all identical. So reading successful and writing is successful. Thank you for watching, and bye bye. See you in the next video. I hope you have learned something with this video. If any question about programming microcontrollers using this programmer, you can ask me either on the comments or better on the server, ORS server. Bye bye everybody.